Hello, learners. I hope you went through the first lecture of this topic, literary criticism, and you by now know that literary criticism is an important component of literature. And in order to understand any text of literature, you need to be familiar with the critical trends, approaches, and also the critics who have been instrumental in explaining, developing some concepts which have enabled us in understanding certain works. So, you already know that M.H. Abrams has given the four basic elements that are very essential when we talk about the literary criticism. He says that it is the work which is very important, it is the artist who has created the work who is important, the universe in which the whole imitation, because after all, whatever is written in the fictional works is mimesis, and the audience that is involved is also very important. So, based on these four elements in the previous lecture, I talked about the literary approaches, and this is formalism. And you know that the formalism primarily focuses on the structure, organization, and form and the word choice. Then you have the new criticism, which starts focusing on the images, the symbols, and tries construing the meaning of these symbols and images that are recurrent in literary texts. Then you have the reader response criticism, where every reader is taken as a unique person and all that he analyzes guides his interpretations. In progression, we have the reception theory, and this reception theory encompasses and involves the general public instead of simply individuals. I also talked about the biographical criticism, which analyzes the author's life and regards his work to be very part of the life that he has lived. In addition to the biographical criticism, you were also told about the sociological criticism, where you cannot disengage the work from the society because everything emerges in a culture and a context. Therefore, the sociological criticism also accounts for your understanding about a thing. And yes, two dominant theories in the sociological criticism are feminist criticism and Marxism, about which I'm going to talk now. So, feminist criticism, as the word itself is evident, it is going to say something about the gender roles, it's going to analyze something according to the perspective of one gender or the other, right? And the leading critic here is Elaine Showalter, who describes that there are two purposes of feminist criticism, and she says it is feminist critique, which is the analysis of the works by male authors, especially in the depiction of women's writing, which is labeled as the gynocriticism, or it is the study of women's writing. So, feminist criticism, as stated by Elaine Showalter, who is the pioneering feminist critic, are pertaining to areas: the analysis of the works by the male authors or the study of women's writing. Long time back, the feminist writings, as I mentioned in the previous lecture also, the example of Kate Chopin was given, that there were the works of women which were totally neglected, and ages after, these works were taken up, and which eventually contributed to creation of some canon of women's writing. So, one such example is of Kate Chopin, who was fairly widely published in the 1890s, but the work that she had written was largely neglected by the literary critics until in the 1960s she was rediscovered by the feminist critics. The second sociological critical approach is termed as the Marxist criticism, and in this Marxist criticism is based on the socio and economic theories postulated by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. I hope you are familiar with the two thinkers, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They believed that there is a value which is based on labor, and the working class will eventually overthrow the capitalist middle class. So, as the middle class exploits the working class, or there are many institutions like the religious, legal, educational, governmental, which are corrupted by the middle class capitalism or certain other things, all such things have been incorporated into the corpus of literary works which have been handed over generations to the readers. So the Marxist critics apply that the economic, social theories are equally helpful and beneficial for analyzing the text, and the ideologies that they give, which support the elite and place the working class at a disadvantage, the class conflicts that have happened, are the subject or in the purview of the Marxist criticism. So they will base their understanding, or they will try to interpret the text according to all such ideologies which were prevalent, the conflicts that were prevalent, and all they will talk for the disadvantaged classes. Therefore, Marxism, it is believed, particularly in America in the 1930s, greatly influenced the fictional works. Another approach to literary criticism is new historicism. Now, you might be wondering that these two words are like oxymoronic. On one hand, it is new, and on the other hand, historicism, something history related to past. So, how can these two things be together, and how could these constitute an approach? Now, the new historicist critics view literature as a part of history and an expression of forces on history. So, new historicism compares the literary analysis to a dynamic circle, and it tells us something about the ideology surrounding, and what is the surrounding like, the rights of the women, human rights, slavery, and every work, for these new historic critics is telling us a tale about these rights or these stories of the slaves, and therefore some kind of an ideology is being primarily focused by them. So the two forms of analysis that they focus on is the analysis of the work in the context in which it was written, and the analysis of the work in the context in it was critically evaluated. So the new historicists assert that literature does not exist outside time and place, and it has cannot be interpreted, without any sort of reference. Therefore, the viewpoint is they are, what did I say in the beginning? That new historicists, they are viewing literature as a part of history, as an expression of the forces on history. Therefore, the readers are influenced by culture. So, no objective reading of a work is possible, right? Critics also consider the cultural effects, and therefore they interpret the historical influences on a work. By now, you know that there are some sociological critical approaches which include the feminist criticism, the Marxist criticism, and then you also were told about new historicism, which says that literature is a part of a history and whatever is being expressed is as a force of history. Another approach in the literary criticism is that of psychoanalytical criticism. Now, this psychoanalytical criticism focuses on literature to reveal certain insights about the way in which the human mind works. Now, you might be curious to know that why should literature be concerned about that? Why? Because what is the subject of any literary work? Who is the agent? The agent, man, woman, child, in any form, is something related to the human beings. Therefore, the literary critics have also evolved theories and approaches by means of which they try to gain insights into the working of a human mind. All these theories or insights are based on the work of famous psychologist Sigmund Freud and his disciples. So their works are used to analyze the characters, the actions, and the motivations. So all actions, they say, are influenced by the unconscious, and the human beings must repress many of their desires to live in harmony with the world. When these repressed desires surface in the unconscious and motivate certain actions, then you know what can happen. The plot gets triggered, whether it is a crime scene or it is something which is leading to some kind of a conflict between the characters, misunderstandings, and things like that, right? So the basic Freudian concepts which are reflected and studied by these psychoanalytic critics are that the mind has three major areas of activity. The id, students of psychology are quite familiar with this area in the unconscious that works for gratification through the pleasure principle. Superego, an internal censor which is bringing the social pressures to bear on the id. Ego, it is the area in the consciousness that mediates among demands of social pressure, id and the superego. So all these Freudian concepts are taken into account, whether it is the id, superego, or the ego. And basically, when the writer is also writing or creating some kind of characters, he's creating some conscious levels or the unconscious levels or some kind of actions which are driven by these levels of the human mind. Again, a disciple of Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, he also gave a pattern and he introduced us to the mythological approaches, which is about the collective unconscious. So, while the psychoanalytical approach talks about the working of the human mind, the mythological approach or talks about the collective unconscious and says that there are basic central images and experiences which are inherent in the human psyche. It analyzes the work to evoke similar response in people regardless of their culture, and it is more or less concerned with the enduring patterns of these inherent basic images and how they are reflected in literature. So it will try to understand, it will try to unravel all these. A few examples of the archetypes are when you have the common themes like the stories of quest and initiation, descents into the underworld, ascent into the heaven, search for father, mother, fall from innocence. Or you might have the characters like a scapegoat, a hero, villain, an outcast, a temptress mother, father, or a mentor. So I hope by now you know that mythological approach is also, building upon something which is related to the conscience. But here the concern is the collective conscience. Therefore, the persons using this approach will try to understand all the inherent patterns of the collective conscience in a human psyche pertaining to one culture or the other. And this could have interpretations of stories which are related to Underworld, Heaven, or Fall from Innocence, and other stories of the heroes, villains, outcasts, and the temptress. So, today, what did you learn today? You learned about the sociological critical approaches, which include the feminist criticism, which analyzes the role of gender in the works of literature. You learned about Ellen Showalter's statement about feminist criticism, that there is a feminist critique and then the gynocriticism, and how a few women writings which were neglected in the past surfaced and were rediscovered by the feminist critics. Marxist criticism is based on the social and economic theories postulated by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and these are based on the thoughts of a value which is based on labor and on the hope and optimism and the belief that working class is eventually going to overthrow the capitalist middle class. And 1930s was the time in America when Marxism and the Marxist critical approaches were adopted. And why? Because a lot of production, a lot of fictional works produced in that time focused on the class conflict and the rights of the disadvantaged. New historicist approach again, brings a literary analysis which is dynamic. Why? Because the work is being analyzed in the context, and also the context in which it is being critically evaluated is also being placed together, because the new historic critics believe that no work of literature exists outside time and place. Therefore, they have to be interpreted with a reference to a particular thing. You also learned about the psychoanalytical criticism, which is a way of understanding the working of the human mind and how the human mind functions. You came to know about id, superego, and ego, and how the unconscious mind and the Freudian concepts have been used by the writers in creating characters and have been used by the critics to understand and comprehend the complexities of a character and the conflicts in the character. Then you also came to know about Carl Jung's model pattern that he gives for the collective unconscious, that how there are certain central images and experiences which are inherent in the human psyche and they endure in cultures. It's not specific to one culture. It is a global phenomena, and hence you have some kind of stories emerging because of this collective unconscious, and these are interpreted by the critics making use of all these methods. So literary criticism in a way becomes a tool to understand the literary text at hand, right? These will enable you to appreciate the literary work in a better manner. After having studied all the approaches, we can conclude that literary criticism refers to critical methods that are used for interpreting texts by developing and substantiating arguments within the purview of a literary theory. So, there are two ways in which a text or any other work of art could be evaluated or interpreted. The first level of criticism proposes individual preferences of the work of art, but the second level of criticism gives rise to arguments, conflicting opinions, or other viewpoints and interpretations that offer insights into the nuances or intricacies that underlie a work of art. So, both literary theory and literary criticism are important to literature because they advocate, analyze work by taking a stand in tandem with a specific approach that would shape the mode of argument. Several schools of criticism have emerged in the West since the classical critics. Each course of critical analysis is representative of the age and contributes to the existing oeuvre of critical methods by either refuting or arguing in favor of the previous one. Therefore, you must know that every critical stance offers a perspective that is perceptive to the tradition of critical analysis, yet it is unique and divergent. I hope you will enjoy learning more about critical theories, literary criticism, and literary theories in the coming lectures. Thank you. A few further readings, I just have a list of these books which you can read, and a few which you already have in your curriculum. You can make use of this to gain more understanding about literary criticism. So, these are a few books which you can further read to build your understanding about literary criticism. Thank you very much.